own life. I mean, what I'll do is I'll certainly draw from, let's say, my experiences or like my environment, like where I grew up. But you know, like I told you the story about the toast. I also, once I come up with the idea, then I kind of go into like a little bit of like an investigative reporter mode. When I'm working on the outline for the script, I'll just, you know, again, on Twitter, I would tweet out to people like, I'm working on the script about Newlyweds, you know, what's the first big fight that you guys had? Just out to the people that follow me. And I'd say 9 out of the 10 responses came in, had something to do with a family member. You know, we had to move back in with my mother-in-law, or my brother showed up and, you know, never left, or this one took the car and drove to California, things like that. So that's kind of how I got that. And I remember I was at a party and I met this couple. It was flipped. He worked nights, she worked days, and they said, "Yeah, we'd never seen one another. It's fantastic." I was like, "All right, that I'm using." So be careful what you tell me afterwards.
Hi, thank you. And I'm Ryder Ross from Twitter, and I just want to say one, thank you again, because we just love that you bring New York to life. It's not canned studio sets. You know, it's amazing seeing our city portrayed as, you know, the beautiful place that it is in the areas that you filmed. In terms of the script, I know you said the actors worked and fleshed out the scenes with you. I'm a writer. I just wanted to know, did you know where the characters were going? Did you know that even though if the script wasn't word for word written down, did you know that they were going to be taking off like the end of Thunder Road? Were they driving off at the end?
No, I didn't know how the movie would end. I knew I sort of knew the beats of Max and Marcia's story, but you know, we didn't really talk. I did not know that Max was going to be a musician. That was sort of Max's thing. I knew that Marcia was going to be a musician because I knew that I asked my friend if we could use their recording studio. You know, I became a trainer because I knew we could use the gym. You know, I tried to think, what's a location I could get for nothing that a woman that works nights. So, you know, we know a bunch of people who own restaurants, so, you know, she became a restaurateur. But your point was about, like, where did I know it was going? I kind of knew Buzzy and Katie's journey, and I knew that it would be a battle over, you know, his allegiances between his sister and his new wife. The one that I really had no clue, because originally it was 3 couples, and Kerry's character, Linda, that couple you only meet, what is his name? Is it John? Miles. Miles. The actor's name is John. Yeah, I wrote it for another actor named Miles, actually. They lived in LA, we'd have to fly him out here, so he got cut. So Miles and his wife that we don't see, in the original outline, it was 3 equal stories between Max, Marcia, Buzzy, Katie, and Miles and his girl. And Linda was going to be the connective tissue between all 3 storylines. That was my original idea. But as I started to write these guys, I fell more in love with that. And then as I started to write me and Katie, and then I just sort of made it about the 2 couples. So, yeah. You have to be willing to let the thing, like I said,
he would pick our brains. He would say, so should they break up over this, or should they stay together? What do you guys think? And we would sit around and talk about sort of our feelings about it and everything too. He's very collaborative that way.
We have someone over here.
Hey, so I'm one of those film school kids who just left school, and I'd be honored to be a free PA on anything you do.
Careful what you wish for.
We need you next Wednesday.
I don't intern on Wednesdays. I jump through fire for you, honestly. But as someone who dreams of being an independent film producer, that microfinancing thing is the hardest part. So besides the 2 night jobs I work, what advice do you have for someone who wants to start making those films and scripts they're so passionate about?
How we finance them?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what I did for Brothers McMullen was we put together a limited partnership for $25,000. We thought we'd get 5 folks to put in $5 grand. You know, my dad put in $5 grand. He had a friend who put in $5 grand, and that's all we got. And I somehow was able to convince them to give me the 10 grand to shoot a good chunk of the movie, and I would cut together a trailer or put some scenes together to shoot the rest, to raise the money to shoot the rest of it. I knew fully well that I was going to try and shoot as much of that film as I could, so that I could just go to him and say, look, I got 75% of the movie done. We need to find another, the time I think we were looking for another 8. I figured I could do it for 18. So, there's no set answer. I mean, we got lucky on that film in that Do Art Film Labs, well, first of all, I had to re-enroll back in school to get the student discount on film stock. But then back then, because we had to shoot film, you would get recanned film stock, which was left over from music videos and commercials. So we would shoot this film and then drop it off at the lab because we couldn't afford to get the film processed. But the lab was nice enough to say, we'll hold on to it until you raise the money to get it developed. So then as we got it developed, we'd get some of it back, and we bought film stock that had already been exposed. It's recanned, so the camera assistant is supposed to be doing a good job, making sure. So there were some scenes from McMullen that just, we couldn't afford to reshoot, so they were just gone because, we shot on, film that had already been exposed. But, so, there's no set way to do it. The great thing is you guys have such an advantage because you can get your hands on, we chose to use on the Canon 5D. People tell me they like the 7D better. There are other cameras that you can get for a couple of $1,000s, and I know that's still a decent chunk of change, but you might be able to hit your dentist up for that if he really believes in the work. But I can't really tell. There's no set answer other than it's easier now than it's ever been. And part of the tricky thing is figuring it out. And in the way that I had to leave the financier and the stripper and figure it out on that drive back to the hotel, you'll have to figure it out, quite honestly. But I hope that's helpful. Probably wasn't. You're going to leave here with no hope. Don't worry, you're working next Wednesday, so.
I wanted to say that I was so surprised at how amazing this film was. It was so, I was embarrassed. We were laughing so loud over there. I was disturbing everybody around.
I know, my sister commented on that.
I'm sure. It was so real and so beautiful, and it said so many beautiful things about marriage as well, not just, and hearing you say this about allowing your actors to behave that way and for you to write as free as you do, I think that has to be the way that film goes from here. I teach little kids how to act, really little kids, like 9, 8, 10, and this little girl came to me, and I'm very free. In fact, everybody messes around most of the time of the class. I mean, I am like the teacher that everybody knows they can roll on the floor, whatever, fight, and I'm nobody else. So, and the other day they said, you should really yell at us. And I said, no, that's not. If you can't do this out of your heart, that's not what it's about. It can't be. And this little 9-year-old girl came to class one day and she said, my dad says I can't act because I don't have any passion. I said, you're 9. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's an old school. He's actually an old school film person, and he's been acting since he was a kid. And I'm so sad to hear such things, and it's so beautiful that people like you are out there doing this.
Well, I mean, you've always heard the stories that, well, thank you very much. But, the great stuff comes through, suffering, or we've all worked with directors who are torturous and they want to make the process painful for some reason. And I was like, I wanted to do this because I didn't want to get a real job, I don't want to show up on a film set and have it not be fun, You're only working with creative people, you're only working with, that's part of the reason that I think, we enjoy this. And look, these guys, they get paid almost nothing to do these movies, they get a piece.
Actually, I was going to
Anyway, we're going to talk about that. You heard what Marcia got?
Yeah, I got paid more.
But you do it because, it's just a bunch of people who want to kind of have the same type of experience.
But we're also, and to tie in a little bit of these two questions, we're very lucky to have a union that now has recognized that this passion still exists, and so we're all still union. This film was done on a union contract. It was done with SAG's authority, and they have micro-budget contracts now to allow people with the passion to do things like this. And we're very fortunate that we have a union that allows that, and we should be
Yeah,
thankful.
yeah,
that
absolutely.
that is.
Yeah.